Hello. Saturday the 21st?
Yep.
21st?
21st?
Yeah, happy spring to you all again.
No, 21st.
Saturday streaming number 21 on the 21st. There you go. It's meant to be.
Right from the start.
Yeah, that's us. Give us a shout if everything's going out okay. We've had a bit of stormy weather here, but I think everything looks good. Too many bloody songs about Shearers, by far. Volume 1. I would never rule out Volume 2. You just never know. But welcome. We're in Millthorpe, for those who are tuning in for the first time or watching on YouTube down the track in the beautiful Tablelands of New South Wales, straight west of Sydney. I'm looking at you and then John Dengate on a painting and then Sydney, 250 clicks away. And this big bit of the middle of New South Wales is Wiradjuri country. We always like to think about that. Well, we think about it every day. We feel grateful to call it home. But certainly before we start a show like that, it's good to know where we are. Let us know what country you're on out there. That'd be fun. Shearing songs. Famously, bush music is full of lots of songs about shearing. It's not really surprising because, tens of thousands at any one time in the 19th century, late 19th century, working in the game, the shearing game. And, 70 million sheep more by the 1890s. So wool, it was all about wool. Right from the early days, really. Famously, merino sheep and MacArthur, Mrs. MacArthur. I don't think Mr. MacArthur had much to do with it at all, to tell you the truth.
He was there.
He was there. We're going to start with the oldest song we'll play tonight. We don't really know when it was written, but it first appeared in the Northern Argus in Clare, South Australia. Interesting week you guys have had. If you're tuning in from over there, thanks for trying to do the right thing as you did, and whatever that may be in these interesting times. But thanks guys, well done. We'll all have our turn again, I'm sure.
Yep.
Oh, I hope not, but you would guess so. Yeah, so the Northern Argus in Clare, South Australia, and it first appeared on the 3rd of April 1874. It's another one of Mark Gregory's wonderful finds for using Trove, about being able to search the internet now. And this is one of my favourites that he's dug up. It appeared in the newspaper, 1874, with no tune, just the words. The words are full of phrases like, open Sorby wide and loudly balls for tar and down the whipping side, all kind of phrases that turned up in shearing songs over the next, 120 years. But there was no tune for this one. Who knows when it was written? But we could see straight away from the chorus, the shape of the chorus, the tune that they'd used was Marching Through Georgia. So we were able to kind of sing it straight off the newspaper. And it was, like most songs tonight, it's called The Shearer.
Yep. We've added a tune into it. The Old Schoolmaster from Tom Walsh.
Oh, yes, Tom's tune, the Old Schoolmaster. Tom was a legend of the National Folk Festival for many, many years. Wonderful man who played some fantastic tunes on his fiddle. If he got his fiddle out in the session bar, he'd always come running. So we might do this one for Tom. He was from Trentham in Victoria.
1, 2, 3.
Dogs until we get them done, and when they are finished off and waiting more to come, each man his board and paint will sharpen. Hurrah, hurrah, the yoke is up today. Hurrah, hurrah, we'll work and sing away. Let us all be jolly boys, light-hearted and gay, as we go warring at shearing. While others do the same, take your nanny on the board and keep it free from pain, while Storm fits back the fleeces rolling. Hurrah, hurrah, the yoke is up today.
hurrah, hurrah, we'll work and sing away. Let us all be jolly boys, light-hearted and gay, as we go wiring in at Shearing.
Oh, hear the clicking of the shears as they swiftly glide down the belly, up the neck, and o'er the whip inside. Watch Groves biting our ears, open sore be wide, trying all he can to catch the ringer.
Hurrah, hurrah, the yoke is up today. Hurrah, hurrah, we'll work and sing away. Let us all be jolly boys, light-hearted and gay, as we go wiring in at Shearing. You'll know the tune, a lot of you out there. Tony's out there. Hi, Winnie. Nice to see you again too. It's a grand song, isn't it? It strikes me that one is, as I said before we started, if you just tuned in, there's phrases all the way through there that turned up in lots of later songs, including this next one. Probably our most famous folk song, certainly our most famous song about sheep. This one, well, you might know it as Click Go the Shears. Mm-hmm. The old blade shears don't click, but anyway, they sort of yeah. Anyhow, there's another find from Mark Gregory. This is the original. What a find, Mark. 1891. This was written by a fella called, well, we think a fella, maybe not necessarily.
Well, no, just
in those days. We would have been ducks on the pond days, but someone who knew the game very well. C.C. Eynesbury. Yeah. E-Y, oh wait, no, it's in the notes. And it was in the Bacchus Marsh Express, just where you want to find a good old song. And it was published as The Bare-Bellied Jew. We found out, by the way, that when we 2 trips to China, to very different parts of China playing music, that this was a hit for the original bushwhackers. So not, the bushwhackers with an H back in the late 50s, 60s with John Meredith and those guys, with Alan Scott singing. It was on a little record, little single in China, and they all know it everywhere we went. Yeah. We met people who knew this song.
They didn't have any other English, but they would sing Click Go the Shears.
Click Go the Shears, yeah. Anyway, it's lovely. Mark's turned up the original, and so this is more or less as it was written. A little bit different in places, and we did juggle the choruses a little bit to to
Yeah, we did.
create a
There were a lot
format.
of verses, so we've turned a couple into bridges.
You'll know that the original tune, might know that the original tune's Ring the Bell Watchman. It's a classic schottish style, barn dance style tune really. A little sort of skip in it. And yeah, it's nice to have the original to sing. We actually got to sing this out at the Rouseabout woolshed when we first recorded this, and miming it for a version that went on to Landline on ABC television. And you might have seen the clip that I shared earlier in the week. The kind of strange part about that clip was we were miming out there at the woolshed, as you do, you know, just they want to film you, they don't want to record the sound. So we used our sound from here and we went out there and mimed it. But we got it, you know, just did it once, and they had all their big, heavy cameras on the tracks, really big production stuff that you get when the ABC's involved. Really beautiful work. But we thought we'd just do it once and they'd shoot it, but we should have known better, really. We'd done a bit of that before, and it never works out like that. That was great, do it again. That was great, do it again. That was great, do it again. That was great. Meanwhile, behind us, we've got blade shearers working with blades. And we're doing, I don't know how many times, over and over and over. And they're working up a sweat. So I didn't, you know, I was just feeling guilty, really. We got it right. And then again, and then again. And they're working. The boss shearer at one point yelled out, "Well, I'm running out of sheep here," he said. And then right at the end, after 30 times probably, you know, exaggerating maybe, I don't know, but it felt like it. And then the same bloke, the boss shearer, said, "Righto, Mr. Guitar Man." And he handed me a sheep and his blade shears.
Surely you handed him a guitar.
I don't know if I was that quick.
I don't think you did, actually, no.
No. I was too scared. I was shaking. You know, I've held shears and attempted to shear sheep before, but not with blades. And he gave me a couple of words of instruction there, but that poor sheep. Ended up with a huge mohawk down its back. I didn't cut it though. I didn't cut the sheep.
No, you were very kind to the sheep.
Yeah, my problem was the other way around, trying to get some wool off the damn thing. But you know, I learned a lot, including the fact that playing guitar is a lot easier than shearing.
Oh, down at the catching pen an old shearer stands, grasping his shears in his long bony hands. Fixed is his gaze on a bare-bellied ewe, saying, "If I can only get a won't I make the ringer go."
Oh, click goes his shears, click, click, click. Wide are the blows and his hand is moving quick. The ringer looks around, for he lost it by a blow, and he curses that old shearer with the bare-bellied ewe. At the end of the ball, in his cane-bottomed chair, the boss remains seated with his eyes everywhere. He marks well each fleece as it comes to the screen. He watches where it comes from if not taken off clean.
The colonial experience is there, of course, with his silver-buckled leggings. He's just off his horse. With the air of a connoisseur, he walks up the floor and sings that sweet melody, "I am a perfect cure."
The Schoolmaster, new chum, you may now begin. Muster number 7 paddock, bring the sheep all in. Leave none behind you, whatever you do, and then we'll say you're fit to be a jackaroo. Singing, click goes his shears, click, click, click. Wide are the blows and his hand is moving quick. The ringer looks around, for he's lost it by a blow, and he curses that old shearer with the bare-bellied ewe. All the tar boy is there, he's awaiting all demands, with his black tarry stick in his black tarry hands. He sees one old ewe with a cut upon her back, and hears what he supposes is tar here, Jack. Oh, tar on the back, Jack, tar boy, tar. Tar from the middle to both ends of the board. Jack jumps around, for he has no time to sleep. He tars the shearers' backs as well as the sheep.
So now the shearing's over, each man got his check. The hut is as dull as the dullest old wreck, where was many a noise and bustle only a few hours before. Now you can hear it plainly if a pin fall on the floor. The shearers now are scattered many miles and far, some to other sheds perhaps, singing out for tar. Down at the bar there the old shearer stands, grasping his glass in his long bony hand,
saying, "Come on, landlord, come on, come. I'm shouting for all hands, watch yours, mine's a rum." He chucks down his check, which is swallowed in a crack, and the landlord with a pen writes no mercy on the back. His eyes, they were fixed on a green painted keg, saying, "I'll lower your contents before I move a peg." His eyes are on the keg, and now are lowering fast. He works hard, he dies hard, and goes to heaven at last. Singing, click goes his shears, click, click, click. Wide are the blows, and his hand is moving quick. The ringer looks around, for he's lost it by a blow, and he curses that old shearer with the bare belly ewe. Bert Jamison. And a poem from the banjo. Now the bell is set a-ringing, and the engine gives a toot. There's 35 shearers here, shearing for the load. So stir yourselves, you penners up, shove the sheep along. The master is a-fetching them, 100,000 strong. And make your collie dogs speak up. What would the buyers say in London if the wool was late this year from Castlereagh? Tubbo shed, he's not the ringer here. That stripling from the Coomer side can teach him how to shear. They trim away the ragged locks and rip the cuttigos, and leaves a track of snowy fleece from brisket to the nose. Oh, it's lovely how they peel it off with never stop nor stay. They're racing for the ringer's place this year at Castlereagh. Keeps the cutter sharp, he's growling in his cage. He's always in a hurry, and he's always in a rage. You clumsy-fisted muttonheads, you'd make a fella sick. You pass yourselves as shearers, you're born to swing a pick. Oh, another broken cutter here, that's two you broke today. It's awful how such crawlers come to shear at Castlereagh. Youngsters picking up the fleece, they enjoy the merry din. They throw the classer up the fleece, he throws it to the bin. The pressers standing by the rack, they're waiting for the wall. There's room for just a couple more, the press is nearly full. Now jump upon the lever, lads, heave and heave away. Another bale of golden fleece is branded Castlereagh. Banjo Paterson, who, I don't know if you realise this or not, but Banjo was born just out the road here. We like to sort of claim him as a local. Banjo was born just the other side of Orange from where we are now. And lived here till he was about 7, then wandered off to Bagnall and spent most of his life in Sydney, of course. But he was born out here and lived on a place called Buckenbar. Now, Banjo is best known for his poetry, of course, and his journalism probably second to his poetry, and occasionally he wrote a song as well. One thing that I like to give Banjo credit for, and I bet a few of you do out there as well, is he also was our first significant song collector. They were telling Banjo there were no Australian songs. and Banjo knew different. He knew otherwise. And he sent out some ads, basically, letters to papers all around the place, and got together the first of many editions of the old bush songs. There's a copy around here somewhere.
There's various, I think.
Got a first edition here, which is a bit of a treasure. But so he collected the songs. He realised that the Australian songs were there, and also that a lot of his mates, maybe in that toffier end of Sydney, were saying that there were no Australian songs. Maybe they just wished there were no Australian songs. I don't know. But
Banjo didn't hear them in the circles they moved in.
That's right.
I think.
Now, when he was looking for songs, there was one song Banjo really wanted to find, and it's a song he'd heard as a kid, and a song called Goorianawa. Didn't know much about it. He just knew he wanted to find it, and he never did.
So, moving on.
But eventually, it did turn up in the repertoire of Duke Tutin. Okay, and Duke. He possibly wrote a couple of lines, of course, but Duke was the great legend of Australian shearing days. There's the book, Time Means Tucker, the best book ever written anywhere by anyone. It's very hard to find, though. In fact, a mate of mine, Ian, probably out there now, I don't know, has turned this wonderful treasure of a book into an e-book, which we can throw the links up later for. There's versions for Mac and whatever, Kindle, the whole thing. Wonderful book. Anyway, Duke had not only carried his swag and learnt to see it shear, clean. I don't think he ever became a very fast shearer, but he was a very clean shearer. Always asked back. Proud of that. He wrote some beautiful songs. I love Shearing in the Bars, that he did put his name on. But he also knew this one, Goorianawa. Turns out, of course, we can see why Banjo would have liked to have collected it, because it actually mentions his childhood home, Buckenbar, towards the end of the song. Yeah, Duke's sort of like the great missing link of Australian music, really, because he was there in the bush singing, Saturday night at the pub and Sunday morning hymns outside the church, busking all the while, trying to work his way around, but also shearing, basically. Built some fences in the Warrumbungles, they're still there. He really was an amazing fella. But then he became a member of the Bush Music Club, so he became a link between Gulgong and the Bush, and the people like John Meredith and Alan Scott. It's going to taught them a lot, I think. If there's any significant heritage of real connection to the bush in the Bush Music Club, then Duke Tutin's got a lot to do with that. So here's Goorianawa. Thank you, Duke. I could shear. I shore for Rouse at Gunterwong, and I always missed the spear. I shore for Nicholas Bailey. I'll declare to you that on his pure merinos I could always struggle through. But it's I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. Down the Bogan as far as Dandaloo for good old Reeds at Tabertong. I've often cut a few at Haddenrig and Quambone. Leaving Wingadee, I could close me shears at 6 o'clock with a quiet century. But it's I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. Goulburn side and down at Douglas Park, where every day it was wool away and Toby did his work. I shore for General Stewart, his tomb's up on the mount, and the sprees of that with Scrummy Jack was more than I could count. But it's I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. Well, I've been shearing at Chigara I'll never forget the name. Went to a gardener, Rob the escort that from the Lachlan came. I shore for Bob Fitzgerald down at the Davy Rocks, McPhillamy of Charlton and your Mr. Henry Cox. But it's oh my, I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. Well, I shore for John McMaster down at the Rockagill Creek, and I could always dish him up with 30 score a week. I shore at Tarramunga Mine and on the Talbot Gar, and I ran McDermott for the cobbler when we shore at Buckham Bar. But it's oh my, I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. Knuckle down now. Put that totally away. That'll stick you. That was in the bad old days. You might have heard them say how Skillycorn from Bathurst rode to Sydney in one day.
He really did.
No, he didn't.
He did.
No.
He did better than riding.
He walked most of the way and carried his horse the rest of the way.
Well, that's even better.
It's a small horse. But now I'm broken mouthed and my shearing's at an end. And although they call me whalebone, I was never known to bend. But it's so my, I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. Well, I've shorn in every woolshed from the Barwon to the Bree, but I got speared at Goorianawa before I'd barbed 3. Oh, but it's by the living jars. I never saw before such sheep as made us knuckle down at Goorianawa. Oh, spare me flaming days! I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. And it's oh my, I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. And it's oh my, I never saw before the way we had to knuckle down at Goorianawa. The wonderful Duke Tutin. And pinned to the Jackie Howe back here is a map. Now, I doubt very much whether you can see much of what's going on there, but Goorianawa is where it all started, this map. I don't know, 20 years ago or something, 15 years ago, we made this map, and it's I'll throw it in the comments later on so that you can get the idea. But it's all the places mentioned in there and a few others thrown in there.
And a couple of guidelines. But yeah, all the station names that are mentioned in the song, there they are.
Darling River's flowing as far as there at the moment.
Yeah.
There's Charlton, Louth, Comprador, Wingadee, Goorianawa. Here's us over here. Oh, sorry, over here, the Mount. Yeah. Anyway, that's a good. You know, it strikes me that the shearing industry really, much as that we might joke about too many songs about sheep, it really did build the country. Some of the people growing wool grew up to be some of the richest individual families in the world, not just Australia. Wool was worth a lot of money, and we grew a lot of wool. So in good times, it really paid for the place we live in now. A lot of damage being done to the country and a lot of mistakes being made, but all that aside, the economy really, you know what I say, Australia rides on the sheep's back. They still used to say that when I was a kid. And in bad times, of course, you know, strikes and droughts in the 1890s in particular, it was the shearing game that gave the world the first ever political party based on the needs, rights and wishes of the working people, the Australian Labor Party. If you cast your mind back, you'll remember them. And, you know, just strong progressive politics that came out of those workers. And you'll have heard us talk about a hidden republic. Well, if it was born under a tree in Western Queensland, I wouldn't be at all surprised. One of the things that happened in these big, wide open spaces, that it was songs of being lost at sea or leaving your lover at home or your wife at home and heading off to sea, those big distances and the loneliness got transplanted very quickly to the Australian bush. There's lots of them, but this is my favourite. It started life in 1885 as a song called Sweet Belle Mahone. in the hands of the Bolch brothers, the wonderful Bolchers, and Rob Willis and Alan Musgrove in particular, which is where I think we got our version from more than anything. It became Shearing, Shearing, Shearing. You'll see a bit of a theme with the names of the songs tonight after a while.
Yeah, it's hell to go and find them afterwards, actually. At least they're all under S.
Hello, David. Nice to see you. Great work, he says. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I love these songs. Like I say, there's a lot of them, but they mean a lot to me. They're some of my favourite songs of all time. And we've coupled this song together with another tune Alan used to play a lot and sing that's perfect for those big long walks across western New South Wales. The dance tune Chloe's playing in the middle and at the start is Starry Night for a Ramble. Beautiful old waltz. Just about every dance musician in Australia used to play that one, I think.
Yep, I'd say. Step to the board, you spanking chums, but who will greet me when shearing's done? Sweet Belle Mahone, soon be on the railway bar. Shall the train transport me far away in the west like a wandering star? Belle Mahone. For here I am in New South Wales, shearing sheep as big as whales, with wrinkly necks and daggy tails. Sweet Belle Mahone, lonely like a withered tree, light and life for all it be. You were all the world to me. Sweet Belle Mahone, shearing, 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 always jolly well shearing, wait for me at heaven's gate. Sweet Belle Mahone. I was upon a log, sitting like a great big frog, just waiting for a Murray cod. Sweet Belle Mahone, land of snakes and cockatoos, native bears and piggy mules, oh, ugly blokes and kangaroos. Sweet Belle Mahone, shearing, 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 always jolly well shearing, away for me at heaven's gate. Sweet
good match, that dance tune and the song, and we thank Alan Musgrove for those two in particular, but also the great Bolch brothers and back, singing that with Rob, and I know Christina Mamoki sang a great version of that one day too. So the song's getting around. I guess we're coming around to a more familiar one now. It's been one of my favourite songs since I was just a little kid, this one, so it was always going to get to Guernsey tonight. Joe Cashmere, one of the great bush fiddlers, not quite up in the Joe Yates League, but very close. And he's a wonderful player and a great character. That was an in-joke going back to our days in Harvest Moon. We weren't in Harvest Moon. We were in Jindy Plays Joe Yates, Jindy with Mike Martin, and the Harvest Moon Band, speaking of Alan Musgrove and Greg O'Leary. And we used to play
Joe Cashmere tunes.
Yeah, just 20 years ago. And we used to have a little thing we did a couple of times at the Nationals and stuff called Your Joe King. Yeah. And it was who was the King Joe, who was the better one. We were playing Joe Yates and they were playing Joe Cashmere tunes. And we won, but only by them playing a Joe Yates tune we didn't know. Gives you an idea of the spirit it was all in. Anyway, Joe, the song came from Joe. It's quite likely, I think, that Joe wrote, if not all of this, or quite a lot of it. I get the feeling that he did. It's funny how times change. These days and through the 60s and 70s, I could mention the name Bob Dylan, but it could be anyone. It just is likely to take a traditional tune or even a song and say you wrote it. Well, it seems like if you go back to the early 20th century and 19th century, the opposite was true. If you wrote a song, you'd pass it off as one you just found somewhere. Interesting. It probably says a lot about the kind of people.
Yep.
It certainly also says a bit about the legalities of the music business, I think. Joanna's been doing Bow Wow Wow on Saturday streaming. She's done it a couple of times from Lewis Carroll, and that's the tune that Joe used. Joe was a mass hypnotist as well. That's what they reckon. That was why he was such a great entertainer, even in the shearing sheds, wherever it was. Mass hypnosis, they said. Mass hypnosis.
The whole crowd.
Yeah. So one from Joe Cashmere. In the song so clear without a word of gammon, swagmen travel all the year, they're waiting for the lament. Now when this dirty work is done to the nearest shanty steering, they meet old friends, their money spent, then jog along till Shearing, singing home sweet home. That is what they left it for, their home sweet home. When the shearing season comes, they hear the price that's going. New arrivals meet old chums and start away, they're blowing. They say that they can shear each day, they're 100 pretty handy, but 80 sheep is bloody hard when the wool is close and sandy, and it's home sweet home. That is what they left it for, their home sweet home. When the sheds are all cut out, they get their piece of paper. To the nearest pub they run, they cart a dash and caper. They call for liquor plenty, they're happy while they're drinking. But where to go when the money's gone, it's little they are thinking. And it's home sweet home. That is what they left it for, their home sweet home. To have a drink, well of course they must, to keep the nerves from shaking. They call for liquor plenty, they're happy while they're drinking. But where to go when the money's gone, it's little they are thinking. And it's home sweet home. That is what they left it for, their home sweet home. sleeping out on the sofas. And for to finish off their spree, they're ordered off as loafers. They've got no friends, their money's spent at their disappearing. They give 3 cheers for the river bend, then jog along till Shearing, singing home sweet home. That is what they left it for, their home sweet home. And it's home sweet home. That is what they left it for, their home sweet home. Oh, they call for 1, then for 2. In a way, it's rather funny. And the landlord says, now this won't do. Your lads have got no money. What a grand song it is. What a grand song. I've back with doing some campfire work now with the school kids. And sometimes I pull that one out. It's a beautiful song to sing with kids. Even as, depends on the school really. But you got that cycle, that never-ending cycle of work, party, and at every step of the way, there's someone ready to take advantage of a floating paycheck, And the warnings were there, and the warnings were ignored, and sometimes they were heeded. But you've got to sing those, at least one of the many songs about that cycle with the shearing game.
I think we've sung at least one of those, Jason. I think we're singing at least one of those.
At least one. Yeah, you think we're going to get some more in? I think so. Hey, I touched on the politics of the shearing game earlier, and I mentioned that the 1890s were the time when a lot of that was coming to a head, a prolonged head, drought, too many sheep, and that's a bad combination already. And then a worldwide depression that I've heard many people talk about as far worse than the 1930s depression. How you measure these things, but certainly worth remembering that it was a very tough time when those shearers were striking. This is a version of a song that ended up in Banjo's old bush songs in a long, many verses of flowery language that just touches on the 1890s. This version came again, we're going to mention Alan's name, Alan Musgrove, 4 verses that couldn't have been edited down any better, I don't think, so thank you, Alan. Interesting that already in the 1890s, barely 100 and a bit years after invasion, colonisation, you already had this sense of nostalgia for the more egalitarian past. If you've seen The Game Is Getting Lively or The Battlers show, some of the Henry Lawson show in the Saturday streaming, you'll have heard us talk about the first half of the 19th century and how different it was from the Victorian era that led up to the 1890s and the trouble that came. And so a sense of nostalgia already for times gone past. I'm just going to grab some water, Chloe.
Yeah, sure.
Like I say, back doing work for school kids means that, and a bit of hay fever as well, means that there's a little bit of, worn out throat going on. Dusty old smoky work it is. I love it.
You'd be back to it anyway.
Oh, it's so good to be back. I've only got a couple more for the year, and goodness knows what the future holds. But just at the moment, so good to be back playing for the kids. So the Sheep Washers' Lament, a song from the days when they used to wash the sheep before they were shorn. You'll see all around Australia, you'll see Sheep Washers Lane and Sheep Washers Road. Well, that's the deal there.
Sheep Washers Spa.
Yeah. Beauty salon. Yeah. Sheep Washers' Lament. It's a grand song from harking back to a time when the workers had a good go in this country. And we'll sing this one. Old hymn. When first I went out washing sheep in days of long ago, the master was a worker then, our servants stood so low. But now the squatter's plump with pride, he treats us with disdain. Lament with me those bygone days that will not come again. 61 to 66, the bushman stout and strong would smoke his pipe and whistle a tune and sing his cheerful song as mountain as the kangaroo that bounds across a plain. Lament with me those bygone days that will not come again. I had a pair of ponies once that guide me on my road. I earned a decent check at time and blew it like a lord. But only now I hung me drum in sunshine and in rain. Lament with me those bygone days that will not come again. Bushmen all in unity, combined with heart and hand, till bloody cringing poverty is driven from our land. Let never Queensland come to know the tyrant's ball and chain, and bushmen all in times to come their banished rights regain. Who knows? They might come again. They might come again. It's just certainly we today, I believe, are far, far better off in this country for the fight that went on back then for workers, and, you know, take it further than that. In South Australia, again, they're going through a tough week, being the second in the world to give women the vote. I always find, I don't know how to say that right. Give women the vote, like it was something, you know. But, yeah. For want of a better way to say it. And also, a bit later on, the first environmental parties in the world too. So, a lot to be proud of in the not too distant past, and a lot of things that we could have done better and still could do better.
Wonderful unifying song that I can remember all coming to the front of the stage with Collector, the big band, going off like a cracker, and then we'd all just hop on the microphones and sing that unaccompanied.
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, I can picture that one with Seamus in the Buttawang at the National. That's the first memory that comes back. It's just the whole of the Buttawang. If you know that venue, it's actually the National. If you've never been to the National Festival, I hope you do go one day. It's not on next year, but maybe the year after. It's the tally room when they used to count the votes. It's a big space. I think full. It's probably about 4,000 people, 3.5, something like that. And hear them roaring that "will not come again" was great. Hey, we try and get some Henry Lawson in whenever we can. We used to do this song many years ago with Mike Martin. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to sing this one for the kids too. Most
we
unsuitable.
did. Very unsuitable. Yeah.
What?
I'm not even sure we should be singing it tonight, Chloe. No, there's a long tradition of the Dream songs. So the Drover's Dream would be the most famous one, I guess. Here's the Shearer's Dream. Henry probably wrote most of this. He certainly put his name on the bottom of it. There's some question mark.
Probably a kernel from somewhere else.
Yeah, I come back to that idea that Jason, Henry Lawson was sung in the bush before it was written, which is a line I got in Golgong many, many years ago. He certainly caught our language very, very well. That's why he was ours, I think. And, so here's the Shearer's Dream from Henry, 1902. So when we think about this story and think about Henry tongue in his cheek and having a good laugh with us all, it's good to remember that that was a very, very bad year for Henry. But nothing is as simple as that. We tend to look back in hindsight and sort of brand a year or as a disaster or that Henry was falling apart, but he still found some time to smile. And this is not only a grand song, but in Children of the Bush it comes with a nice little top and tail for a bit of context. He's got Mitchell with him, you know, his famous Mitchell. And this is what Henry wrote. Just then, one of the travellers who were camped a bit up the creek suddenly commenced to sing. It was a song called The Shearer's Dream, and I suppose the buggy of girls, or the conversation they started, reminded him of it. He started his verses and most of his lines with a howl, and there were unexpected howls all through the song, and it wailed off just as unexpectedly in places where there was no pathos that I could see.
Oh, I dreamt I shore in a shearing shed, and it was a dream of joy. For every one of them rouseabouts was a girl dressed up as a boy, dressed up like a page in a pantomime, the prettiest ever seen. They had flaxen hair, they had coal-black hair, and every shade between. The shed was cooled by electric fans that were over every chute. The pens was of polished mahogany, and everything else to suit. And the hut was fixed with spring mattresses, and the tucker was simply grand. And every night by the billabong we danced to a German band. Our pay was the wool on the jambak's back, so we shore till all was blue. The sheep was washed before they were sure, and the rams were scented too. And we all of us cried when the shed cut out, in spite of the long hot days. For every hour them girls waltzed by, with whiskey and beer on trays. There was short, plump girls, there was tall, slim girls, the handsomest ever seen. They were 4'5", they were 6 foot high, and every size between. There were 3 of them girls to every chap, and as jealous as they could be. There was 3 of them girls to every chap, and 6 of them picked on me. We was drafting them out for the homeward track, and sharing them round like steam, when I woke with my head in the blazing sun, to find 'twas a shearer's dream. They had kind grey eyes, they had coal-black eyes, and the grandest ever seen. They had plump big hands, they had slim white hands, and every shape between. Ow!
The singer's voice or memory seemed suddenly to have failed him at this point, but whether his mates hit him on the back of the head with a tomahawk or only choked him, I don't know. Mitchell was inclined to think, from the sound of it, that they choked him. All right. There was a song it seems in the 30s, and John Meredith, the great man of Australian folk song collecting and folklore collecting and so much more besides, great man. He heard a fragment of this in the very earliest days of his collecting time and searched for the song the whole time. It was a song that seemed to be about a mad shed rep or a crazy shed rep. It was, indeed. I'm really sorry that Merrow didn't find the song, but I'm really glad that Rob Willis and John Harpley did. They're an amazing bloke. Pat bloody Nightingale. Every second word on the tape was bloody. He really, it was wonderful to listen to. He played for the bush dancers in central New South Wales with one Hawaiian style slide Rickenbacker guitar and amp. Oh man, if I could go back in time to do one thing, it would be to see one of those big halls out at Lake Agelligo or Yavalong or something, with Pat playing for the dancers with just slide guitar and a little amplifier. Anyway, he knew the song. What a day it was for them to find the song. And yes, it was quite a story in there too. You can sing along at home. The only thing you really need to know is that barrowing. I'm not even sure if this word is still used in the sheds. Probably not. I've tried asking a few shearers who've come to the various shows we've done over the years, and it's inconclusive, but maybe it's a word that's gone out of fashion. Barrowing was the Rouseys shearing after the bell to learn to shear. It was a career path. So they're Rouseabouts, and then after the bell, they practice on a couple. But of course the union rep very much frowned upon this practice because no one's getting paid for shearing those sheep. And so that's what's going on here. And for anyone who thinks that
the rest is poetic license.
Yeah, so for those people who think that our repertoire and the repertoire of the folkies is nothing but a bunch of left-wing kind of lunatics, here's the other side. We've stuck a tune in there called My Father Was a Dutchman, which we learnt from Mike Martin again. But we thank Rob Willis and John Harpley for this great song, and think of John Meredith. Searched his whole career for this song. And here it is. Right. 1, 2, 3. There was a mad shed rep and a bastard, they say, who had for his motto work 8 hours a day. When the Rouseys would barrow, you'd hear that rep yell, and he'd get as hot as the tomcats in hell.
Oh, he'd get as hot as the tomcats in hell.
Now those Rouseys, poor bastards, were having their fun when up jumped the rep like a shot from a gun. He said, "You can't barrow, it's a farce," and he pissed them all off with a kick up the arse.
Yes, he pissed them all off with a kick up the arse.
Now the Rouseys were gloomy, their pleasure was done. They couldn't see why they'd been stopped from their fun. They had no ideas till the Pennerup said, "We'd be far better off if the shed rep was dead."
Yeah, let's put a dead matter in the mad
bastard's bed. Yeah, let's do it. Oh, an Eastern Brownie. You don't want to half do the job. Now the Rouseys next morning were first out of bed. They tore round to see if that shed rep was dead. As stiff, dark and cold, with a smile as he lay, and the Rouseys all murmured, "We'll barrow today."
Yeah, the Rouseys all murmured, "We'll barrow today."
Now one stand lay idle where the shed rep had been. He never was heard of, he never was seen, for the Rouseys had buried him deep in the pit and covered him over with big lumps of shit.
And covered him over with big lumps of shit.
And there he remains. What's no one looking there? pepper's gone where all bad shearers go. He's down underground where they're shoveling coal. And his motto, that you must not work more than 8 hours, was changed by the Rouseys to please bring no flowers.
Oh, it was changed by the Rouseys to please bring no flowers.
They say, please bring no flowers. My father was a Dutchman, taught me the Spanish waltz. Don't ask me what I found in Spain. Spanish castle magic.
A song worth looking for.
Absolutely. When you go looking for a song for a long time, it's grand when you can get something that good. All right. Another from Henry now. Henry only worked in one shearing shed in his life. That was Terrell. Been out there a couple of times now, just on west of Burke on the Darling, and northwest a little bit, I think. Northwest, mostly west.
Mostly west.
It's a great shed. It's worth a look. It's Australia's first fully metal shed. No timber in the structure. In the frame and so forth. And as you listen to Henry's story, he gets it right. I mean, we've never been out there in summer, but even when we're out there in, spring, it's just boy oh boy. And they were shearing because of the strikes that were going on when Henry was out in Burke. The shearing was interrupted so much that they were shearing right through the spring, right into the summer. In fact, they shore right up to Christmas at Terrell, the year Henry was there, just before Christmas. Unbelievable. I find there's two camps when listening to the Greenhand Rouseabout. There's people who've never actually worked in a shearing shed who think it's just horrid, and people who have who think it's very funny. There's a bit of both going on, but it's a very real poem. Chloe's got something from Pat Nightingale as well.
Yes.
To introduce Henry's poem.
There's a cook on Mumble Bumble, ought to be in jail, they say, for his numerous offences in the culinary way. Most everything the beggar had, curried, hashed or fried, would create a revolution in an ostrich's inside. All the crows and the goannas get most awful stomach aches taking chances on the fragments of the dampers that he bakes, and no self-respecting emu ever ventures on his cake, for they get appendicitis if they eat them by mistake.
The cooks really do cop it, I tell you.
They do.
They do.
It's not an easy job.
My dad went shearers cooking once at Falls Bridge, just near there, and never again, he said, never again. He'd been a classer and all kinds of things in the shed very happily, but no, not cooking.
Remember the story about that lovely lady, the shearers cook from
Yabalong.
Yeah. Who was a shearers cook for many years and then sort of retired to a retirement home thinking this will be easy. But her quantities were way over for a very long time. Because, yes, they didn't want 14 pork chops for breakfast.
Lamb chops.
Lamb chops, I'm sorry.
No pig.
No pig.
Call this hot? I beg your pardon. Hot? You don't know what it means. Oh, what's that, waiter? Lamb or mutton? Thank you. Mine, it's beef and greens, bread and butter while I'm waiting. Milk? Oh, yes, a bucketful. I'm just in from west the Darling, picking up and rolling wool. Mutton stewed or chops for breakfast. Dry and tasteless, boiled in fat. Bread or brownie, tea or coffee. 2 hours graft in front of that. Legs of mutton boiled for dinner. Mutton greasy warm for tea. Mutton curried. Gave my order, it's beef and plenty greens for me. Breakfast, curried rice and mutton. To your innards sacrifice, and you sicken at the colour and the smell of curried rice. It's all day long with living mutton, bits and belly wall and fleece, blinded by the yoke of wool, and shirt and trousers stiff with grease, till you long for sight of verdure, cabbage plots and water clear, and you crave for beef and butter, as a boozer craves for beer. It's a dusty patch in baking moulder, clearing iron hut and shed, feel and smell of rain forgotten, water scarce and feed grass dead, hot suffocating sunrise, all-pervading sheepyard smell, stiff and aching Greenhand stretches. Slushy rings the bullet bell, pint of tea, hunk of brownie, sinners string towards the shed, great black greasy crows round carcass, screen behind of dust cloud red. Engine whistles, go at tigers, and the agony begins, picking up for 7 devils out of Hades for my sins, picking up for 7 devils, 7 demons out of hell, that sell their souls to get the bell sheep, a half a dozen Christ they'd sell. And the day grows hot as where they come from, too damned hot for men or brutes. Roof of corrugated iron, just 6'6" above the chutes, whiz and rattle and vibrations like an endless chain of trams, blasphemy of 5 and 40, prickly heat and stink of rams. Baku leaves his pen door open and the sheep come bucking out. When the rouser goes to pen them, Baku blasts the Rouseabout. That's injury with insult added, trial of our cursing powers, cursed and cursing back enough to damn a dozen worlds like ours. Take my combs down to the grinder, will you? Have you seen my cattle pup? Oh, there's a sheep fell down in me chute. Just jump down and pick it up. Oh, give the office when the boss comes. Catch that glory sheep, old man. Count the sheep in my pen, will ya? Oh, fetch my combs back when you can. When you get a chance, old fella, will you pop down to the hut? Fetch me pipe. The cook will show ya, and I'll let you have a cut. Shearer yells for tar and needle, ringers roaring like a bull. Wool away, you sons of angels, where the hell's the foundling wool? £1 a week. And station prices mustn't kick against the pricks. 7 weeks of lurid mateship, ruined soul, and £4.6. What's that, waiter? Me? Look here, waiter. To be brief, I said beef, you blood-stained villain. Beef. Moo cow. Roast bullock. Beef. He gets it right, old Henry. He gets it very right.
There we go.
I'm just checking the time and just juggling the last couple. Yeah, I think we've got time for what we want to do, which is good news. We're now going back to another song that we used to sing in our first time with Jindy and Mike Martin. Mike used to sing it. And that was the arrangement we had. We put Sally Sloane's Mazurka on the end, and we're more or less playing the same arrangement now. But the words aren't the same, because these words were another find from Mark Gregory. So we used to think of it as a song that was collected by Bert Lloyd in Cowra. and it was, we think it was. He certainly said it was. But we now know that it was written in 1875. The words were written. The old tune is, Polly Perkins or whatever other name you want to use for it. But the words were by Robert Stewart. This is as Robert wrote the song. And they're a great set of words. We used to sing, they brought from the Lachlan. They're bringing Shearers from a little further afield in this version. I was just thinking, this was a song that Danny Spooner heard
That's
on the album when we released
And
the
he
album,
recorded it.
this one in 15, and he rang us up and wanted to talk about the words for the song, and the conversation went on and went on and went on, and I know some of you out there might have been there. It was only a handful of us at Danny's last gig at the Cabargo Festival in the little sort of shed there at Cabargo, and he was very crook. I 3 cheers and hooray for Mark Waltz for sort of standing by him and helping him through, but it was just a mighty, mighty performance, even though he was so crook. He's left a real ghost walking around the festivals, Danny. But as he walked out, and rightly so, with a standing ovation for the performance he'd given, he walked past Chloe and I and the girls, and he shook my hand, and even though he looked like you could blow him over, like blowing out a candle, his handshake was just every bit as strong as it ever was. This man, a very strong man, and his last words, and I think he knew they were his last words to me, I've still got to talk to you about that song. This was the song he was talking about. So, in other words, the job goes on. Hey? So we'll do this one for Danny tonight. Of the have-beens, a shearer I mean. I once was a ringer, and I used to shear clean. I could make the wool roll off like soil from a plough. But you may not believe me, 'cause I can't do it now. Now I'm awkward as a new chum, quite used to the frown that the boss often shows me, saying keep your plates down. At the Yanko, steam plane and bun door, and in most of the big sheds down there I have shore. And although you may smile when I talk about speed, amongst 68 shearers I've taken the lead. But now I'm awkward as a new chum, quite used to the frown that the boss often shows me, saying keep your plates down. Jack Bright, Billy Boyd and Jack Young, Bigger Leighton, Tommy Fergus and the great Roaring Dun. They brought from Launceston the best they could find, but there's not one amongst them could leave me behind. Now I'm awkward as a new chum, quite used to the frown that the boss often shows me, saying keep your plates down. Complaining, I'll never say die, though the days of fast shearers for me have gone by. I'll take the wool easy, shear slowly and clean, and I merely have told you just what I have been. Now I'm awkward as a new chum, quite used to the frown that the boss often shows me, saying keep your blades down. Now I'm awkward as a new chum, quite used to the frown that the boss often shows me, saying keep your blades down. Several flashbacks in there of going back to when we first joined up with Ginny and Bathurst. We did a lot of gigs, just weddings, parties, anything sort of stuff, and that song would always come out. It's a beauty. This one's a little bit more unusual, and another find from Mark Gregory. Now you can see why we thank him so much and why Mark's work really sparked us into making the album we probably should have made a long, long time ago, hence the Volume 1 thing. I know Ian Large has been making little sheep compilations from our CDs over the years. I think you told us that once, didn't you? I think so.
And for taking the best photographs too.
Yes, and he took some beautiful photographs which we've used there and other places. This set of words that Mark found struck us as being, well, a lovely set of words, but in particular we could see that it looked like it, well, we know it was written in 1917 for a start. Well, no, we don't. We know it appeared in 1917. It may have been a
in the
bit
Blue
older.
Mountain Echo.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it looked like a hymn. There's no question in our minds it looked like a hymn. We couldn't find the right hymn, so we found the wrong hymn and panel beat it substantially to fit.
We found a close one.
We found a close one, that's right. Maybe if you're out there tonight and you know your hymns, maybe you'll
recognise a pattern in the words.
We asked everyone we could think of and trawled around on the Lord Google and stuff and couldn't find exactly the right hymn, but we found one called Softly and Tenderly Jesus is Calling.
The sentiment's right.
Yeah, and just swap a jumbuck in for Jesus.
Yeah.
And,
Bob's your uncle.
And another one of those J names. Sorry, I'll just tune this because it will be a bit fussy.
And there was a spoken introduction as part of the newspaper article that was found there in Trove by Mark, and it's Jason's going to read it before we sing the song.
Yeah, word for word, I think.
Ornery things should be shared.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. If you've been following the Saturday streaming, but you're new to our music, I'm sure you'll have worked out by now that Chloe and I are much happier in the sides of the roads. Like Neil Young said, it's a much more interesting ride out there on the sides than straight down the middle. This song certainly fits that category. Mm-hmm. And now to the humorous side of Way Out Beyond. For humour there is in all things. The idiot. One struck a whaler on the Barwon, and as the day registered 113 in the shade, the question arose as to whether Hades was hotter than Walgett. Not on your life, said Whiskers. Why don't you know that blokes who die in Walgett find it so cold below that they have to wear blankets? The same evening, the veteran became sentimental, and I found that he was nil intellectual derelict, an MA of Oxford University. After a fifth go at the bottle, he became maudlin, and to lull him to sleep, I sang him the Shearers' Lament.
I hear the jumbuck sweetly calling to me. I see their fleeces falling, shorn by me. Oh, for the land of the never, never. Oh, for the old machine home. Oh, for wet sheep, bad cooks and spoilt tucker. Jumbuck I come, Jumbuck I come. Oh, the many long miles that were travelled by me. Oh, for the many big checks that were busted, but not by me. Oh, for the face of the old grower who once on his lyre did strum a song of bad huts, rough sheep and low tallies. Jumbuck I come, Jumbuck I come. Oh, when they wanted top prices for tucker, they charged
the days of raw sugar and rum,
of 10, 10 and 2, with quarter chucked in.
Oh,
Jumbuck I come, Jumbuck I come. I long now for hollow trees which have been dossed in by me. When I sleep neath the mulga with saddle for pillow, I was careless and free. Yet I long then for nights of bed warmers and bedsteads. But how oft you'll hear this chick hum. Oh, give me the smell of the warm fleece a-falling. Jumbuck I come, Jumbuck I come. Oh, Jumbuck I come, Jumbuck I come.
That's an evocative, it's wonderful, the song that thank you, Mark, for turning that up. Trove has really changed the game, of course, because now all of a sudden you can search the way we search Google, text, because of the way they're digitised, scanned, and OCR, that's the technology, isn't it? So the machine recognises the text and turns it into text, and then people hop on and
yes,
fix
and
it
volunteers fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a specialist in something old and interesting, you might want to log on to Trove and fix some language. That would be really helpful.
I think we're going to have time for the last two, which is terrific. Hello, Ian. Nice to have you back. Work's sent you away, but nice to have you back. Remember that I should probably do what I always forget to do, which is to say Saturday streaming, the free shows, but we do really appreciate donations. I haven't actually, while I'm thinking of it, I'll see if I can just paste a link. Oh yeah,
it's easy. You just go to the website. There's a donate button there, and even though it says PayPal all over it, you can use your credit card if you want to.
Yeah, thank you.
Or buy an album. I love this album.
Yeah, that's
one of my favourite recordings. It's a joyful album. It was recorded with, Rob Willis and John Harpley and Ollie all here playing, and Bill Brown.
Yeah,
it was Matt.
No,
that was
no. I
Matt.
played bass.
That was
Yeah,
you.
but it was the most fun to make of all the records we've made, and it's my favourite sounding album of all the 30 odd records we've made. It's the one I really like to listen to. The songs you've heard, some of the songs tonight. We're not getting to all of them. But yeah, we had some fun making it. John, Robin, Ollie, and Bill all played their pants off. Not literally, but
No.
played something off. It was great fun. They're free concerts, but yeah, we do appreciate the donations. Please remember that the streaming is one thing, but the YouTube, they're all there. Next week will be the last Saturday streaming. We'll have a summer break and we'll do some different things online, but we won't do the Saturday streamings. We'll have done 22 at that point in a row, 22 weeks, all of them running about an hour and a half, all of them with their various themes, and while they've we've all had our moments, rough voices or little mistakes or whatever. Generally, we're really pleased with how they've come out, and it's largely a credit to the online company, the crack that we've been able to get going live. What we've learnt just lately, Facebook keeps driving us crazy, to be honest, because of the streaming, is we're running separate mics and separate camera for the YouTube. So I think the YouTube is better than it's ever been.
Yeah, so YouTube should be all right despite the vagaries of internet on any given night. So. And
Megan, our big daughter Megan, goes and puts timestamps on, so you can just launch in on a song. You don't have to sort of wade through if there's a particular song you want to hear in a show. They're all in the contents, and they're got a link there. But a little bit helps a lot, and a lot helps enormously. It's still pretty weird times for a musician.
Weird times for lots of people.
Weird times for lots of people. That's right. Most importantly, just come. This is the Shearers Jamboree. It's a song that was first performed in the 40s, probably the most recent song we'll be singing tonight. Written by Joan Martin and Eric Tutin. They're a hillbilly duo called The Sundowners. Rob Willis taught us this one 25 years ago or something. Rob encouraged Chloe to yodel for the first time. Rob's responsible for that. Rob's responsible for a lot of things, and all of them great.
We were shearing down at Mungandai. The going had been tough. We reckon when we finished work that we had worked enough. The Chinaman jumped in the creek. The cook went on a spree. We rounded up the countryside and had a jamboree.
There was music down in the hollow. There was singing and dancing and beer. There was never such a shindig from Surat to Gunawindi when the shearing was done for you.
There were 7 concertinas and a gadget made of wood. A bellow on a trombone, God knowing where he could. A fiddle and a cornet and a bloke who played the lead. He knew the Swanee River, so they voted him the chief.
Oh, there was music down in the hollow. There was singing and dancing and beer. There was never such a shindig from Surat to Gunawindi when the shearing was done for you. Join in at home. Oh, it went off for us, Chloe.
Next day before we found the cook, the whiskey he'd been drinking must have made him awful crook. He was sleeping in the pigsty with his head upon the sow.
You can tell a man that boozes by the company he chooses. And with that the pig got up and walked away.
He was sleeping in the pigsty with his head upon the sow. And when they both woke up at once, you should have heard the row.
There was music down in the hollow. There was singing and dancing and beer. There was never such a shindig from Surat to Gunawindi when the shearing was done for you. Oh, good to go at home. Scare the neighbours. Joan Martin and Eric Tutin and the Sundowners, and what a cracker of a song. I always think of Marilyn and Frank when we do that one. We're going to sing this last song. If the battery goes flat, you can catch the end on YouTube. We'll see how we go. The YouTube is running well tonight, so if the battery goes flat out there, don't know how Facebook is going for you tonight. Last week was really annoying, I know, but this week hopefully it's been a bit better. It's still the best we can manage, I think, and we've really loved the company over these few weeks. So,
yes, thank you.
Thank you, yeah. And yeah, those who've chipped in, some people have been really generous, like blow you away kind of generous. It's just really, as I said it last week, it's got us through. It's really made all the difference. But main thing is to come and join in. There's a very famous shearing song from the Australian sort of canon called the Yabalong Ball, and again, Mark Gregory found the original, and the Wooyeo Ball, verses written evidently by a great sounding bloke. Vox has got to be a bloke, isn't it?
Vox
Silvis. And he actually lived in New Avalon in 1888. So we know that these are the original words from Vox Silvis. The Warri Ball was after the big horse race meeting there, and it was a substantial dance. It's still legendary around that part of the world, Yabalong and Lake Angelico. Now, we've got all kinds of dance tunes in this song.
Yeah, just... yep.
Under the Willow, from John Warner at Crooked Corner, is where we start. I'll just chip them in as we go, maybe, and then let you know, because they're beauties, and it is a ball. So, and most of the people we got tunes from worked in the shearing sheds. See if anyone didn't. So thanks for your company tonight, and we'll see you next week for the last Saturday streaming for this season.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Where the clans of the Lachlan, the great and the small, come bent on diversion from far and from near, to shake off dull care for just once a year. The lairds of fat weathers assembled in force, and with them their dames as a matter of course, while here may be seen the spruce manager too, with the best of good fellows, the gay jackaroo. There were maidens in plenty, some 2 or 3 score, some weaners, some 2 it may be some more, and their fleeces so puffy, so fluffy and clean, with the daintiest creatures that ever were seen.
This is sad, the Cuckoo is calling. Joe Cashmere, Bullaboo.
The bachelors seemed to be frisky and stout, but the old fellas suffered immensely from drought. If the water was scarce, sure the whiskey was there, and the way they tucked in was a caution, I'll swear. There was music and dancing and going the pace. Some went at a canter, some went at a race. There was bobbing and sliding and twisting and gliding, and to vary the measure, some couples colliding. Much hugging and squeezing, of course, on the sly, and tender emotions when bidding goodbye. The men swore they were all as right as a trivet as they gulped down their 20th nip of Glenlivet.
Oh, the wonderful Harry Schaeffer. Schaeffer's Waltz. Forbes and Grenfell. Echuca originally, I think. Waltzes.
Oh, the old Wowie ball was a wonderful sight as the dancing went on through the whole blessed night, and many there were who will love to recall the polkas they danced at the old Wowie ball.
Another one from John Warne and the Crooked Corner Band, one of my favourite bands, just down the road. Well, thank you very much for your company, everybody. I've really enjoyed those. I knew that would be fun tonight. Shearing songs are just too much fun to dig into. And that's just volume 1. There's lots of Shearing songs to come, maybe, if we get another season going of Saturday streaming. But in the meantime, we hope you're all doing okay up there. Friends, new and old, mates. Interesting times, and in some ways we're feeling a bit strange because we've just started to do a couple of little gigs, big gigs. We've got a gig in Sydney at Loaded Dog at Leichhardt Bolo. If you're in Sydney or anywhere near Sydney and you feel like coming out for a night of music, what a novelty it will be. It'll be a great gig, I'm sure. Great sound, in-house tech and everything at the Bolo. And the Loaded Dog's legendary, the club is fantastic. So that's something to look forward to on Friday. After that, not much over the summer. So we'll just be here, looking after each other, and we'll pop up occasionally with I think
isolation tape.
Something like that. A Sunday summer sessions, or some such. Focusing on a song here and there. But in the meantime, just have a good week and all the best.
Yep. See ya.